Unfortunately, animals have a habit of putting themselves in dangerous situations. Because they are constantly in search of food, they often end up at the wrong place at the wrong time. If you want to see what happens when animals dabble in electricity, sit tight as you get shocked when we look at animals being shocked to death. Number 15. Snake gets electric shock. Some tourists arrived in South Africa, and on their first day, they encountered a cobra that got zapped when he made contact with an electric fence. A man pushed the snake away with a stick to prevent him from further electrocution. I don't know why this huge snake decided to crawl up this electric pole, but when this employee tries to bring it down with the rod, the snake resists and holds on tight to pole. I'm not sure if the snake gets a few shocks along the way, but the people managed to take him down alive and put him in a bag. This snake is dangling from an electric pole, and he's attracting a lot of attention because birds begin to show up. I guess they're waiting for lunch. When the snake is zapped, it falls to the ground, but when the cameraman looks for it, there is no movement on the ground. I guess the birds already knew the outcome, and that's why they showed up. This white oak snake tried to get into this hen house, but the electric fence not only stopped him, but also killed him. I guess snakes are not the ideal animals for electric fences. Number 14. Birds being shocked. Parrots are being electrocuted according to the sibling of the person filming. So he grabs his camera and records the whole incident, and you can see the other two dangling by their beaks and one on its tail. They were producing an electric shock by jumping from wire to wire. They would not have been electrocuted if they had just stayed on one line. These birds meet at the top of an electric pole, but one of the birds is unlucky and gets zapped. The bird falls to the ground, and the person filming approaches the bird. The bird is stunned, but still alive, and after a few seconds, even manages to fly away. I hope it learned its lesson. You can see how close this little bird is to being zapped, and when he is, he just disappears. I guess there's only one thing to say. Beam me up, Scotty. Number 13. Cows/bulls get electric shock. This young bull finds out soon enough not to go out wandering too close to the electric fence when he gets a small shock and backs away. I guess after a few of those, the animals understand not to touch the fence. These cows are enclosed, surrounded by an electric fence, and every time one cow touches the fence, the entire herd backs off. It's kind of funny to watch. You don't always have to climb an electric pole to get the shock, and you can see what I mean when this cow steps into a puddle of water right next to an electric pole and crumbles to the ground and dies. Because the ions in water are extremely conductive, electricity and water are a dangerous combination. This results in an electrical shock, possibly of a more severe nature. Any body of water can become an electrical shock hazard if an electrical source is submerged. This bull finds out soon enough not to go out wandering too close to the electric fence when it gets a small shock and backs away. I guess after a few of those, the animal understands not to touch the fence. For the first time, the 4 tiny calves were allowed to leave their calf enclosure shelter. They were initially allowed a little area to stretch their legs, locate their new feed in water bins, and become familiar with the electric fencing. They'll be released into the entire field once they've settled down and are no longer milking. Number 12. Chickens versus electric fence. The owners of this farm were letting their chickens become familiar with their new electric fence, but the chickens still ran into the fence several times. Now that they've grown, they still push up against it. They never learn. This chicken decided to get a better view of the surroundings by climbing up an electric pole. Everything was fine and dandy until the chicken exploded and disappeared. Number 11. Squirrels getting zapped. This squirrel gets a small shock when he takes a walk on this fence. The squirrel can be seen reacting to the shock and running off afterwards. This squirrel tries to get a quick lunch from this bird feeder, but he is zapped and the shock sends him flying to the ground. He comes back for more, but it's the same result. I guess he'll need a few shocks to set him straight. This squirrel loves to eat pasta, but pasta without tomato sauce is bland. That's why this little rodent is trying to sneak past this fence to steal a few tomatoes. Unfortunately for the little guy, he gets zapped when he tries to jump over and runs off in terror. Apparently, the owner of this place had evicted a bunch of squirrels, but 5 months later, they showed up again, so he set up an electric rig to fend them off. Unfortunately, one of the squirrels got caught in a bad way, ending up with both wires under his armpits, which killed him. The owner admits having pinpointed the problem and made the necessary adjustments so this would not happen again. Number 10. Alligator/crocodile versus electric eel. In our thumbnail, it looks like this eel is about to be devoured by a hungry reptile. But maybe the alligator is in for a surprise he doesn't expect. One of South Africa's apex predators uses what could be the strangest hunting tactic of all. This 6-foot animal produces a killing shock of electricity. It flushes out its prey and delivers its death blow of 500 volts, enough to stun an adult human. Watch this crocodile approach this electric eel and get the shock of its life. It is stunned and realizes it is in trouble and immediately tries to get away. The eel only defended itself, so once the crocodile got the message, the eel did not pursue it. When this caiman tries to snatch an electric eel, he feels the vibe and it's not pleasant. It almost looks like the caiman is at a spa enjoying a bubble bath. Number 9. Fox gets shocked. This fox wants to get past this fence, probably in search of food or prey, but the fence zaps him and he moves away. He realizes he won't be able to get through, so he leaves. This curious fox looks through the fence, but when he sticks his nose in it, he finds out the fence is alive and bites. He must be asking himself what a strange animal that was. Number 8. Deer versus electric fence. The owner of this land purchased a new electric fence to prevent deer from getting into his brassica plots, and he's quite satisfied because the animals are staying away from it. During a cold winter day, the last thing this deer needs is a shock to the system. But when it gets too close to this fence, that's what it gets. These deer were used to seeing the hedge on this property, and when the owner installed a new electric fence to prevent them from doing so, they still tried to get to it. But boy were they surprised when they found out touching the fence hurt so bad. This video is not about electric shocks. It's about being shocked when an elk takes a spectacular fall, sliding uncontrollably down a waterfall, ending up right at the feet of the person filming. Now that's what I call a shocking experience. Number 7. Lion gets shocked during hunts. While on a safari in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, which borders the Kruger National Park in South Africa, Ernest Porter, a safari guide, and his guests tracked 2 lionesses to a waterbuck, which they discovered lying in the grass just a few meters away with the 2 lionesses. But the lioness appeared hesitant to attack due to an electric fence beside the antelope. They thought they chased it into the fence, ran full speed into the waterbuck, and then stopped stunned. Even though the lionesses were only a few meters away from the waterbuck, they refused to attack. Electric fences are necessary in game reserves to prevent animals from damaging equipment and stealing, but they occasionally interfere with the animal's natural behavior. They waited for something to happen, and eventually, one lion jumped on the waterbuck, touched the fence, was shocked, and jumped off of the waterbuck, perplexed. She then went back to the waterbuck to continue her hunt. The video shows the perplexed lions being zapped by the fence and looking around, unsure of what is going on. Despite the limited protection provided by the fence, the lionesses killed the waterbuck after being shocked several times during the attack. This lioness has been electrocuted by this fence, and he's just laying on the ground. The fence is supposed to be a deterrent, so the shock is not that strong, but this lion looks dead. I hope it's not the case. Number 6. Elephants getting shocked. This poor elephant calf falls on an electric fence and is in a constant state of shock while its mom tries to get it out of there, but it's not easy. A woman eventually arrives and tries to get the little guy out of the predicament. She's managed to help the calf up. All the elephants gather around the calf to make sure he's okay. These massive elephants use their trunks to grab food, but sometimes they make contact with the electric fence and get shocked. Considering their size, I'm sure it's more of a tickle than a shock. It doesn't look like an electric fence works to keep elephants enclosed. Shock or no shock, these elephants walk right through this electric fence and enjoy some freedom. This electric fence is more potent, and it shows when one of these 2 elephants makes contact with it and falls to the ground. However, the shock seems to have broken the fence, and the 2 elephants escape. Number 5. Dog versus electric eel. Watch this dog grab this electric eel and immediately drop it after receiving the shock of his life. That must have come as a surprise. This little dog is attempting to snatch this electric eel, but every time he gets close, it shakes its head, most likely due to the shock it receives. It eventually learns its lesson and simply barks at the eel. The eel can return to the water without difficulty. When this dog makes the mistake of walking into the water right next to an electric pole, he is zapped to death. This dog has a habit of destroying this man's garden, so the man put up an electric fence and it seems to do the job. Number 4. Monkeys get electric shock. The monkey on this electric pole has already been electrocuted and is dead. Someone pushes the body with a rod, sending the body falling to the ground. This monkey is fiddling around on this electric structure, and if he's not careful, he could end up feeling some unpleasant tingles. Here is a monkey swinging on an electric line trying to reach the electric pole, and when he does, he swings on to the next cable and the next, but as soon as he touches the third cable, you can see the flames burn his body. The monkey falls to the ground and probably dies, even though we don't see the outcome. Number 3. Raccoons. This raccoon gets the scare of his life when he tries to steal food from a bird feeder. The shock was enough to make the little pest look elsewhere for food. A man found another way to deter the raccoons from getting into his trash can. An electric fence that seems to work well. The raccoons are smarts. Once they get hit with it, they don't come back for quite a while. Another sneaky raccoon tries trespassing on private property, but instead takes a jump back into the forest. This man kept losing fish to a raccoon that was snatching them out of the water. Hence, he got an electric fence installed, and instead of shocking the fish, the raccoon was shocked by the fence. A bobcat kept coming to this property to snatch some ducks and chickens, so the owner of this property installed an electric fence. However, the next night, the bobcat was nowhere to be seen. Instead, a poor raccoon tried his luck, but was not as lucky as the bobcat and got the shock of his life. Number 2. Cat Zap. This kitten approached a pond, but didn't know it was protected by an electric fence, so when it touched it, it was zapped. The owner of the cat found it cute and funny, and that's understandable because he wasn't the one getting shocked. This man put up an electric fence to keep a heron out, but after his cat discovered the fence, they decided to turn it off when they were in the backyard because the cat kept getting shocks. This cat stands right below an electric fence, and the second he makes contact with the fence, he scrams out of there. This cat sneaks onto this property by walking under an electric fence without a problem, but when his tail touches the fence, the cat is startled and runs off. Number 1. Honey badger/badger. Badgers are fearless and aggressive animals that never back down from a fight, except when the aggressor is an electric fence. This badger kept tearing up this man's lawn, so he decided to install an electric fence, and you can see what happens to the honey badger on his next visit. He runs like the wind after being zapped by the fence. After a man installs an electric fence, a badger does not even try touching the netting. This badger electric fence kit is perfect for keeping badgers off your gardens and flower beds. They are easy to set up and move around and come with dark green netting so they don't stick out like a sore thumb. This badger doesn't realize an electric fence separates him from his goal, but when he touches the fence, he finds out soon enough and scrams back into the forest. Watch as this badger is deterred with the 4-line, positive-negative electric fence system. 4 lines of electric fence wires strung across a baited open box will do the trick. Some of these were hard to watch, but my favorite was without a doubt the bird that disappeared when it was zapped.